Come and dream with me.
Hello and welcome to What Do You Want to Watch, the Explosion Network's premier media podcast. Every fortnight we get together to talk about movies, TV and online content, and if you don't like it, start a petition about it. I'm your host, Ashley Hobley, and joining me today is Dylan Blight.
I started a petition to rewrite the election.
How many petitionees
3.
have you got?
You, me, and one dash. And he signed it only to write, shut the fuck up or something. So,
Yep.
But it counts, you know, it's a signature.
Yeah,
it's
signature.
what's important.
Also joining us is Nicholas Pryor.
Yep, that's me.
Yep. All right, we've got a big episode. We're going to be talking about what's in our watch history, talking about all the latest news, including Batman-related news, and then we'll be talking about the movie we ended up watching, The Devil's Rejects.
Tutti fucking fruity.
All right, let's kick it off. I see that both Nick and Dylan, you've watched John Wick 3.
Parabellum.
Nick, what'd you think?
I really enjoyed it. I think it's the second best of the franchise so far. I, going into it, was expecting a bigger part by Halle Berry, judging by the promotional material. But other than that, yeah, it's still fantastic action. Builds up more of the world that I find incredibly interesting. Yeah, if you're a fan of action movies in general, I think you should just go see it.
Cool. Dylan, your thoughts? You've written a review for ExplosionNetwork.com.
Yes, you can read my review at ExplosionNetwork.com where I gave it a 9 out of 10 and said, John Wick Chapter 3 Parabellum is the best entry in the franchise with the most visually enthralling and jaw-dropping action scenes of the series thus far. Keanu Reeves has cemented himself as a true action icon for the decade with this franchise. And John Wick Chapter 3, one of the best action films. I loved it. I would fucking go watch that shit. It's the most fun, best action movie I have watched since Mad Max Fury Road, I think, on the big screen, is how I'd put it. That's the
How do you rate it next to The Raid? Because I was comparing it to The Raid a lot, watching it.
I see a lot of people comparing The Raid, and I don't know if it's just because it's got, like, I think combat-wise.
I think the reason I was comparing it more to The Raid, this particular entry, because there was a lot more hand-to-hand and knife fights.
Yes. So I will say that I think one of the reasons here's the thing. I love older John Wick movies. So when I'm saying this is my favorite one, I'm not saying that the other ones are bad. I'm just saying if I had to pick my favorites, this one. I do think one of the reasons I enjoy this one the most is because it has the most hand-to-hand and weapon combat, and swords and throwing knives and whatever else, which I would say is the combat I get off on the most, I suppose is one way to put it.
You like banging somebody fucking knife through their head, and
I love watching a good, well put together, choreographed, well shot, hand-to-hand action scene. I think there's something really special and skill involved in pulling that off well, like from the actors, the director, cinematographer, the stuntman, everyone. I just think, and because they do in this movie my favorite thing, which is they show you the fucking action. Because here's the thing, like, as much as I love Endgame, and I think Endgame's great as a big popcorn spectacle on the screen, to compare that to a movie like this is a proper action movie to me. Endgame's just a fantasy, like, it's fun to watch on the big screen because it's loud and special effects and stuff. But watching this is just, the camera doesn't cut much. You see these hand-to-hand scenes. You see how well Keanu's trained for these action scenes and stuff. And just visually, it is an absolute fucking treat for the type of action films that I like watching. So yeah, I think the Raid comparison works from the hand-to-hand combat perspective of it, but plot-wise and all that sort of stuff, I don't think it's really
no, not plot. No, definitely not.
Yeah, but
it does share an actor though.
It does share an it shares an actor from, and they were great in it. And seeing, without spoiling it, seeing Keanu face off.
I loved that particular group of villains. I guess how they ended up being portrayed in the end.
Yeah, because I don't think
it's out of left field.
I said in my review, it's like this person is the villain. But really, compared to the other movies, they're not as much as a headstrong. Like, they're real bad. It's just they're villains because, like everyone else in the movie, they're just out to get the contract, like everyone else in the movie. Which, in a world of movies that's about contract killers, you're like, are they really the bad guys, or are they just like?
No, it's just professionalism, really.
Yeah. But I fucking love it. I would love to see it on a bigger screen as loud as I can, and it's absolutely fantastic.
I think the thing that particularly works for me with the whole franchise is that it all takes place pretty much straight after the other. There's no time gaps or
No,
it's just
that's the thing I loved about the second one too. Like when I remember watching the second one in the cinema, and the first 20 minutes of that movie is just this like one big action scene in a warehouse that picks up pretty much straight after the first one. I remember once that action scene finally died down, I was like, well, how the fuck do they top that for the rest of the movie? Like, how do you start a movie at 11 and kind of go down? John Wick 3 kind of changes that a little bit because it spends like the first 15 minutes just building the tension, building the tension, building the tension. It's like when that clock strikes whatever time it is, everyone's allowed to try and kill John Wick. And then when finally the clock strikes, it's like, well, we're off now. We're off. And it's like nonstop for the next half hour, 40 minutes before you get a break.
Someone tries to jump the gun. Oh.
Yeah, well, that motherfucker. Also, I'd say one of my other things before we move on for this is watching this, as much as I thought Halle Berry was going to be in it a lot less too, a lot more, sorry. The amount that she's in it is absolutely perfect, and she's in one of the best fight scenes in it, and I was fucking impressed with how well she does with her fight scenes and everything, because they're not like, oh, Halle Berry's in it, like she doesn't get to do action scenes like Keanu
she's not
Reeves.
a Bond
like,
girl.
You can tell she fucking trained as hard as he did for this, because she's in there in amongst it, and she's just, kicking dudes, doing flips, all these sorts of things. And one of the other things I noticed so much in this movie that her and Keanu both do that I also love is they'll unload a clip, like punch some dude in the nuts or whatever, and then because they're out, they'll reach into the dead body on the ground below them, pull out a clip of their gun and slam it into theirs. I'm like, oh, it's not like they have infinite bullets. They're constantly having to pick up ammo. It's like a video gamey type thing where you're picking ammo off dead bodies, but at the same time, it's a little bit more realistic than of action movies where they never seem to run out of bullets or have infinite clips. Yeah.
So I'm assuming you're both happy that John Wick 4 is coming in 2021?
Yep, fuck it. Yep.
Was this announced before the movie?
No, it was announced after it made a shit ton of money.
Yeah. Oh, really? Because the way they ended it alluded to it, whether they made the money or not.
Without going into spoilers and that, so I walked out of the cinema and I was like, have they already said a fourth is coming? So I'll Google it, obviously. And because when I watched it, it was an early screening, so it wasn't even out in America or anything yet, so there wasn't really much interviews to do with the ending of the movie. But I found an interview of the director from 2, around after that time or something, where he said, where they were asking about the ending of that movie, and at the time he said, every movie, John Wick movie that he makes from now till the end of time, however many there is, will most likely always end on a cliffhanger ending, because in his mind, the John Wick character is never going to have a happy ending. He says to an interviewer, he says, how do you end these movies? Either A, John Wick's dead, or B, it's a cliffhanger because someone's still after John Wick. So he says, no matter what, unless John Wick's dead, you can technically come to me and say, oh, is it a cliffhanger? Is there another one? Yeah. And maybe there is another one, maybe there's another one, but when I finally make the last one, it's still probably going to be a cliffhanger unless I actually kill John Wick, because that's just how it has to roll for the character.
Well, I went to it, I don't know why I had this in my head, but I went into it thinking it was only a trilogy, and I was thinking, all right, how they end this, all right, is this how it's going to happen or whatnot? But yeah.
But I think that the thing is, as long as they keep making money, they'll just keep making them, and it kicked Avengers off the top of the box office, so for the week. Not
Detective
overall,
Pikachu
obviously.
did that the week before, to be fair.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, like, it came in and it made like 50 million in the United States or whatever, and the first weekend or something like that. So it's doing well money wise. So obviously they're like, people still want to watch him. Keanu Reeves has said before, I'll keep making these as long as people still want to watch the character, and obviously people still want to watch the character. You look at the reviews, you look at the money it's making, and people still want to watch the movie. So I'm down for another one. Which is weird, because I went into this going, end the franchise, don't overstretch it. But then by the time it ended, I was like, I'll take a number 4.
Yeah, right. Well, when's the next one coming out? I'm ready.
Yeah. 2021. Every 2 years we get a John Wick movie now.
Yeah. Also, key fact, Keanu Reeves, 54. Crazy.
Yeah.
It's like a freaking Paul Rudd.
He's kicking ass.
Yeah.
And he's kicking fucking ass. It's crazy.
Don't age. Speaking of Detective Pikachu, that also came out in the last 2 weeks. Me and Dylan have seen it. We did an review discussion over at explosionnetwork.com or youtube.com/explosionnetwork with Captain Cuties herself, Sharice Sharena. Dylan, you liked it a lot?
Yep. I gave it I can't
Yep.
remember now, 8.5 or something like that. I
Yeah.
don't remember. Yeah, I really like it. I think it's a lot of fun. It's definitely, I mean, if you want to just compare it to other video game movies, it's by far, even though the
easily.
bar's so low. The bar is low, but at the same time, I do think it's worth stating that I think we have our first actually just good. Everyone, for the majority of people, think this movie is good. So I think this is the first video game movie that the majority of people go, it's pretty good. Like, I'll take a second one. Like, Tomb Raider was the last one that came out that I was like, it was close. Like, I was like, you're close to being okay, but like you didn't quite hit it. But yeah, Pokemon, I think hits old marks for me. I think it's a lot of fun for adults and even more fun for kids, I think, for sure. If I was a kid and I was watching this movie, I would have been losing my fucking mind. So, yeah.
Cool. Well, I didn't love it as much. I think there's some story issues and character issues, and there's a twist in there that doesn't quite land, I don't think. But overall, obviously seeing old Pokemon in real life is cool. And if that's all you want...
I think I got that twist spoiled to me by reading something, and if it's true, I don't see how it would work not knowing the context of it as well.
I think out of context, it's going to make even less sense than if you watch it.
Yep. Cool. So me and Dylan watched a couple of documentaries over on YouTube. First, we've got Raising Kratos, the story of the God of War development over at Santa Monica Studios. This is an amazing documentary. Obviously, I probably wouldn't recommend watching it unless you've played the game, but it does follow pretty much the whole process of them making the game over like a 5-year period, which is insane that they sort of embedded it. It feels like they embedded a documentary team to cover the progress, but I don't know. Like, I want to see the making of the making
yeah, for
of.
sure. They've got so much of it. So they've made making ofs for God of War 2 and stuff. So I reckon they just set out to make a making of, and then they stretched it into a full-on feature type thing. When originally it was probably set out to be a half hour on disc or something like that. Chuck it up, whatever.
Yeah, but yeah. Incredible, moving, made me almost tear up as much as God of War did. You'll have much more respect for the game development process after watching it, I think. Dylan, what do you think? We talked about it on Platinum Explosion a couple weeks ago, yeah.
You're like one of these podcasts. Yeah, it's really, I would counteract what you said about not playing it unless, I would say don't play it if you plan on playing the game. But then if you don't plan on playing the game or simply don't care about the game, I would say still watch it, because just solely looking at it as a documentary as about video game development, it stands on its own 2 feet and it's super interesting from that front. I don't think you have to have an attachment to the God of War character or anything like that to actually get something out of it. I just think it's a really interesting look at the development process from a huge AAA studio on one of their biggest properties, and it's free on YouTube, so you don't really have an excuse not to watch it. But yeah, I also teared up a little bit, and it was great. So yeah, I'd highly suggest it.
And then we also watched the no-clip documentary Telltale, the humans behind the games, the human stories behind the games. Pretty much, the documentary is just 4 people sort of telling their story of their experiences at Telltale from when they first started the studio all the way through to its sudden closure last year. I thought it was a great piece. Obviously, all these people look like they cared about it. You did get a little more insight into what the problems were going behind the scenes, where it seems like executives were kind of screwing with creatives, and there seemed to be a lot of back and forth, and not too much back and forth. The creatives would just lie down and take whatever the executives told them to do. So, but made me miss Telltale Games a little bit more.
It's not on the same level if you want to compare it to the Kratos one. It's more of just a interview piece, and obviously they don't have access to a lot of old footage from back in the day. They're just using what's possible, but it just doesn't have as much access as you would like at some points. But I still found it super interesting. But this one is the complete opposite to the God of War one for me, where this, I think you can only really watch if you have an investment or interest in Telltale as a company. And I don't think this one works as much as just a standalone thing, whereas the God of War one does, I suppose. But as someone who's played the majority of Telltale games, and obviously we followed the whole closure of the company on Arcade Couch a lot, and these sorts of things, I found it still super interesting to hear several different people's accounts from, there's a writer, there's a design lead, a production leader or one of them. I can't remember his
director,
exact
yeah,
job.
and
something
PR
along
person.
those lines, and a PR person. So there was a nice like group to talk to cover like different perspectives on what happened, and some of them were there for like 4 or 5 years, some of them there for 10. So overall, I think if you're interested in Telltale as a company, it's really interesting, and it's only like 50 minutes, an hour or something.
Yeah,
So
it's not too bad. Probably most heartbreaking is them talking about what the next couple of games were going to be and the missed out potential of those games.
I'd never seen
What were they
footage.
going to be?
Stranger Things and Wolf Among Us 2.
Oh, right, okay.
And they show footage of Stranger
And
Things
then a new IP as well.
the games.
Yeah.
And a new IP, they said that was working on, which would have been really interesting. They actually had a new IP on the works. But the Stranger Things stuff they were showing was the only stuff they had footage from. And that was all in there. Actually, they was using Unity. They changed engine finally. This was taking place after they kicked out the head dude who was basically holding the whole team back. And then they were working on these. They were working on also like the last couple episodes of Batman from then on, I think was after the head of the company, I can't remember his name, but he was causing all the issues. And they say from the last couple episodes of Batman on was when they reckoned they was doing their best work because they weren't getting constantly told like you can't do this, you can like what to do creatively and these sorts of things. And they said that like if they could have kept going, they reckon that Telltale would have came out of a slump as the best they'd ever been, like being able to finally change engines and not have creative restrictions as much and these sorts of things. So it's just sad, I guess, because I like those games. I wish they hadn't closed. I wish I got Wolf Among Us 2. I wish I got this Stranger Things game, but
Yeah, very sad.
Nonetheless.
All right, we might as well just hit the dragon-sized thing in the room.
Elephant? No, we can't afford those.
No, can't afford elephants. Game of Thrones, after 8 seasons.
You got it.
It was a dream, 9 seasons.
It needed 9 seasons.
It needed 9 seasons. Came to an end this week. Saw already it's the largest ever Foxtel showing of an episode. 1.9 million, I believe, in the first day or so. But yeah. If you want to hear me and Dylan's thoughts on the last 2 episodes, you can of course go over to the before-mentioned youtube.com/Explosion Network and watch South of King's Landing, or on all good podcasting services. But Nick, last episode you were kind of down on the season so far. Did it have a nice upswing towards the end?
No. I honestly came away from the finale feeling underwhelmed.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say that I hated it. There were definitely moments that worked for me, but just as a whole, it's just very underwhelming and anticlimactic, I guess. They Return of the King at the end there.
The more I've had to think about the finale, which I think the finale is an okay episode. I have bigger problems with the one prior to that, I guess, than the actual finale. But the more I've had to think about the season as a whole, and me and Ashley yet to record our final episode for it, but I keep just thinking, I'm like, why did they rush it? I really want to, because HBO wanted them to continue the show, right?
There was an article that I read with D&D, I think their names, that they said from the get-go that they envisioned the story being 76 hours or however long it ended up being. And
such a weird thing to say, though.
Yeah, I know. And they shoehorned themselves into that. And again, I think they could have, HBO pretty much gave them a blank check, but they obviously just want to get working on Star Wars, I guess.
Yeah, it just seems really weird to me to rush it out, because I'm like, is it them plus the actors, or is it just them, or what's the go? And then honestly, as a fan of the show, if they were kind of burnt out of from doing it year after year after year, if they had said, hey, guess what, I know this is going to piss off a lot of people, but we're taking 2 years off Game of Thrones, we're going to come back in 2 years and we're going to finish the show up then, but we're just going to take a bit of a break, I would have been like, interesting. HBO's probably not happy. I don't know how you managed to lock in a contract that they let you take 2 years off their bigger show. But in a world where this happens, I would have been like, okay, it's better than you.
I honestly, if they, because it all comes down to, from what I've been reading and research on the backside, it's come down to D&D just wanting to be end with it. But if they were really that burnt out with it towards the end, I really wish that they had handed it off to somebody else to finish it with justice.
I guess they didn't want to do that to their baby, though.
But they screwed their baby in the end anyway.
In your opinion.
Ashley, you're an apologist.
A little bit, but that's beside the point.
No, it is beside the point. It's just... at the end of the day, Game of Thrones deserved better than what it got.
My biggest question is, since I saw you commented on the South of King's Landing episode, I just want to know, watching me and Ash talk, are you like yelling and screaming at Ash constantly while watching it, or?
I was laughing because I was kind of hoping that Ashley wasn't serious a lot of the time.
Because there's a lot of time recording that show where I'll say something and I'm being like, I feel like I'm pretty, like I'm critical, yet I'm not over the top saying it's the worst thing ever. I think I'm like critical on a level, but then I'll say something and then Ash will just be like, yeah, but here's a reason that it makes sense and it's okay, Dylan, 10 out of 10, best show ever. And I'll be like, oh God, if this was Nick here after hearing that rant last week, he would have been like, yo, Ash!
Well, somebody needs to be nice.
I'm kind of nervous for what they're working on next.
Well, we'll get into it later. But, yeah. And I felt like it was a good ending. Dylan, not as much.
I think it's an okay ending.
We can all agree we wish it had lasted longer and maybe just more character moments, more smaller moments, more things explained.
The biggest issue is that it didn't explain enough in the show that they had to come out in those after shows and explain what happened in the show. If they have to come out and explain what was happening in the show afterwards, that is a telltale sign of that they're not putting enough in there explaining it to the audience.
Or they just don't trust people to pay attention.
If you can't get the information, what you need of what's happening from the show, in the show itself, then it's not doing its job properly.
No, I felt like I got enough right from the show. You just got to take note of the small details.
Yeah, but you think Arrow's a masterpiece, so
my other thing was I was going to bring up. Before I forget, because I jokingly said this dash of that. I'm like, can you now look back at Westworld season 2 and just treat it like a masterpiece?
Not a masterpiece. It was definitely a lot better than what that was.
I couldn't help but think, because obviously Westworld season 1 we both loved, and then Westworld season 2 we were both like critical of this particularly one episode, and then like some bits and pieces. But I think overall by the time we reached it, I remember we both liked it, right?
Yeah.
But then watching the last, but then we did the seasons 7 and 8 of Game of Thrones after shows, and I kept thinking back to how somewhat down we was on some parts of Westworld season 2, and I was like, man, we should be more loving of that show.
I think the issue, it was stupid, those battle scenes in Westworld, but the difference between that and Game of Thrones is that we had so much higher in Game of Thrones, that we've fallen so far, whereas those particular things they were the best of what we got in regards to like those kind of things.
We'll say incredible acting this season still. Peter Dinklage knocked it out of the park.
The actors they are just to be commended.
And then the cinematography in this season is arguably some of the best the whole series.
The problem is that they traded spectacle for quality. They disregarded a whole lot of stuff for just visual spectacle.
Yeah. My final thought on it, I guess, is that For now, yeah, me and Ash are going to extend on it in South of King's Landing a bit more. But my final thought on it for this episode is that I thought the season was okay. I definitely loved I really liked the first half. It's so weird when I'm looking back. I liked episode 1. I loved episode 2.
Episode 1 and 2, yeah.
And I'm one of the people that actually likes episode 3. Everything after episode 3 is where I fall off, which I find so weird that to me, a show that's a season that was 6 episodes, that I just find it so funny that literally the first 3 is where I'm like, yeah, I like this. And then the 3 episodes after that, I'm like, not so sure. But the days following, and I'm like, if I had to rate the season, I'm like, I don't know, like a 6 or 7, like, I don't know. Like it's okay to me. It's not bad. It's definitely not great. So it's probably in the middle there somewhere. But I keep just being like, for all these people that are getting so shitty on the internet, I'm not like really annoyed. I'm like, I think you're going to do a lot of those people are going to do themselves a disservice to, because they're ruining it for themselves, like the last 10 years,
Yes.
basically. Because
Yeah.
Nick.
I could still go back and
No,
watch.
I'm not ruining it. I love it. I
Yeah.
absolutely adored the show up until the last 2 seasons.
Because I'm like,
Because
I
you
could
chose
do
to
a
dislike
rewatch.
it.
No, it isn't. Oh, Ashley. I'm not engaging with your trolling.
I could go back and watch seasons 1 to whatever now, and like I could even watch them all the way through to 8 and know and go in accepting what the last season is if I ever did a rewatch, right? And I probably would have less problems with it because I'm going in knowing what it is. But I see a lot of these people complaining online to the point where I'm like, you're kind of ruining it for yourself if you're going to say that's the worst show ever now because they ruined it. I'm like,
No,
they
it's
can't
not.
ruin it. Like if in your mind there's 6 or 7, a lot of people like season 7 as well. But whatever it is, if you like 1 to 6 seasons and only 1 season's bad on your mind, I'm like the show's still pretty high percentage of win. Like you can't and like
I could see it ended up being like the narrative has become around Lost where all anyone talks about is the ending and how bad that was, but not the journey that got to it.
yeah. And to me, it's like I've seen a lot of articles be like, "What was the point of Game of Thrones?" I'm like, "Well, I'm pretty sure the point of Game of Thrones was just about the journey."
It's the point
really.
of every story, really.
Yeah,
Yeah,
It's
it's
like
about the
it's
journey.
just
Well,
a
what's the
story.
point of telling a story if? Yeah, it's just yeah.
To me, with the story they told, the point of Game of Thrones to me is it's like here is just a period of time in Westeros.
Yeah.
Here's a thing that happened. Here's the story. There's not really any big narrative to me personally. So I'm like,
No.
the point of the show really is it's a story, and that means that really you should just be able to enjoy it as the journey more so than the ending, I guess, because that's kind of what the show ends on to me. It's like it was a
Yeah,
journey.
well, the end of the season pretty much just says life goes on, really.
Yep.
Yep.
And now go watch Westworld 3, it says.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah. Ari's going to show up in Westworld.
That'd be cool.
What's Westeros?
Yep. Oh, it makes sense.
Get it? Have you seen those memes?
Not yet. All right. Moving on. I saw you've both been watching the start of the new Game of Thrones replacement, Chernobyl. What's Chernobyl?
Is that a legit question or?
Yes. Well, I know what the actual Chernobyl is, but I don't know what the
that's
TV
what
show
it-
Chernobyl is.
It's a mini docudrama based around the events of the nuclear power plant going up.
How many episodes have you watched?
3. I've watched them all.
Okay, yeah, I watched all 3 last night and I couldn't sleep. So
Oh yeah,
that's-
it is absolutely. I think it's the most horrific thing I've seen on television.
I would somewhat agree.
Unintentionally horrific.
Yeah,
I guess it's intentionally horrific, but it's not horrific in a way that a horror series is set out to be.
Yeah, because it's a true
It's
story.
real. Yeah,
it's real. It's not over the top with like. And here's the thing: when I'm saying it's horrific, I mean equally like seeing some really person who's like dying slowly as their body like deteriorates from nuclear poisoning or whatever you call it. That's fucked up, obviously, and that's hard to look at. But it's not just that stuff that's fucked up. It's just the entire thing of what happened that kind of scares me, because the reason it gets as bad as it is, and I know about Chernobyl right before this. I've never known about Chernobyl like this show is teaching me.
Yeah.
And from my quick Googles, there's only like a couple things have changed for narrative's sake, like the main female
there's 2
scientist
characters
character.
melded into one, and
Yeah, it's like stuff like that, which to me is okay. It's a TV
It's
show that
fine,
makes
yeah,
perfect sense,
yeah.
but everything other than that is pretty fucking spot on from what I
Yeah.
can find, and that's what makes it so scary, because how it got as fucked up as it is basically because of naive, fucking stupid.
It's human
idiots.
self-interest.
Yeah, it's governments and corporations and all these people that were like, no, it's fine. It's like, we can't let this escape and all this thing.
Yeah.
And it's like a cover up, and it's a cover up to keep it within Russia's borders. And then when America finds out, eventually they're like, oh, that's worse than a bunch of people dying
Yeah.
potentially, like, because America knows that's the end of the world. But yeah, it's like the combination of how it fucking happens that scares the shit out of me, and the human error that causes it that scares the shit out of me. And then also just the fucked up dark nature of having to see what happens from this poisoning and what happens to people. I'm like, I don't know why I watched it last night, but I started it and I was like, okay, I'm fucking hooked. That first episode was probably one of the best first episodes I've watched of anything for the last, I don't know. This will end up on my top 10 TV shows of the year.
Oh,
for sure.
it's already my show of the year.
Yeah, it's
already.
like it's already locked in. We've got 2 episodes left, but I'm kind of finding it
I thought it
hard
was 6.
or maybe it's 6. I don't know. We'll have to double check. Either way, it's only 5 or 6. It's a mini series, but we're either halfway or just over halfway at this point. And it's easy to say this will be top 10, top 5, top 3 probably TV shows of the year. It's writing, acting, the way it's shot, everything is just fucking enthralling, and it had me hooked. But at the same time, it is so dark and nasty and terrible and just so sad at the same time.
Not only that, it's also inspiring at the selflessness of the people willing to do what needs to be done.
That's true. Yeah, like just all the people who go in to take
the miners, those guys they sent in to open the valves,
the water.
and,
all these people who basically know they're dying,
knowing what's going to happen, and they just decide to put the lives of millions of people above.
Yeah, there's one part that really just like fucking. I was just like, oh god, I didn't know it was like that. But there's one part where they're like explaining what would happen if they don't fix the plant, and they're like, well, it would spread to Ukraine, it would spread to Romania, it would spread to Germany, like all these other countries. And they're like, well, they wouldn't be inhabitable for like 100 years. I'm like, there's an alternative history out there where this doesn't go the way it does, and like half of that side of the world is still recovering. I mean, it still is somewhat obviously, but I mean like to a bigger extent of different countries even. Because there's one point in there where they're talking about was it Germany or someone? I think they're talking about like because it went across the ocean that far, and they weren't letting school kids come out and play in like over in Germany or something like that. Yeah, and in Russia, they still hadn't evacuated the city where the closest city, which is like 3.4 Ks off from where Chernobyl is. And I'm like, oh my fucking God, this thing is so messed up. But but the acting is fucking fantastic. And as I jokingly tweeted out last night, I was shocked when I looked up. I'm like, who created this show? I look up the writer and the creator, and he's done Scary Movie 3, 4, 5, and then like Hangover 1, 2, and 3. And all these writing credits are for these comedies. And then all of a sudden he's created and written every episode of this Chernobyl TV show. And I'm like, I don't
see what you don't realize. It's a dark comedy.
Yeah, what's that adage that the comedic actors make the best dramatic actors? Maybe it's the same for writers too.
Maybe it's the same for writers, but I was fucking. I was like, I don't know how you. It must have like some sort of passion for the story, because I think it comes across in the writing about how well he's like got the details down to telling this story cohesively and truthfully and everything. But
I think I love it too, as well, because I've been fascinated with
Russia.
Not only Russia, but it all comes down to the focal point of Chernobyl and Pripyat and what happened there, and it just radiates outward. That's like the center point of the beginning of my, I guess, interest and fascination with that.
It's also like, and then like there's so many pop culture things that come from, like
the thing that sparked that was Stalker, when that first
Stalker, and I played that back in the day, and I think that's the first time when I was like 13, 14 or something like that, I even heard about like Chernobyl and all this sort of stuff. I didn't know about it until I was like that age and I started playing Stalker and stuff. But I just want to quickly shout out, like Jared Harris is in this. He's amazing. Stellan Skarsgård is in this. He's amazing. That you'd know from Thor movies, I guess. And then also Emily Watson is the main female person character.
You mean Bootstrap Bill?
Yeah, she's she's amazing as well. And there's a bunch of other actors, little small ones too. Like Michael Soka is in it for like as a background character at one point, but I know him from a bunch of like British TV shows and stuff that like This Is England and stuff that people might know, and what the fuck, Being Human and stuff. So but it's fucking fantastic. It's on Foxtel if you haven't cancelled it after Game of Thrones yet. But
just hold out for another couple of weeks.
Don't watch it at night like I did, because that's what I'm saying. Like, it's not too graphic. It's not purposely trying to be more graphic.
It's a human element.
It's as graphic as it needs to be at times to be realistic. It is not a horror movie, and when I'm saying it's haunting, I just think it's haunting more so from the true story aspect of it than the what you're actually visually seeing aspect of it. But
the gore, I guess, if you want to call it, is not there just to show you gore. It's there to give you context for what's happening.
Yes. Yeah.
Cool. Let's change the tone a little bit. Nick, I saw that you've been watching Archer.
Yes.
I think you've gotten steam through 2 seasons already.
Yep. I think I'm 3 or 4 episodes into season 3 now.
Yeah? How do you feel about the show so far?
I really enjoyed it. I remember watching, like, an episode of the first season way back when it first
Used
came
to be
out.
on TV?
Yeah, and I don't know why I just didn't get into it, but now I don't know why again I decided to give it another shot. But yeah, I'm just really, really enjoying it. I think it's easily digestible, and I think a lot of the humor in it is just absolutely so inappropriate, and I think I love it because of that as well.
Yeah, I had a similar thing last year. I think I binged like 7 seasons of it. And it was, like after watching episode 1 like 2 or 3 times since it came out. So I don't know. It just got its hooks into me. And yeah, obviously where it's going now is a bit interesting, where it's like a different theme every year. But yeah, those early seasons.
Oh, okay,
are cool.
right. Yeah.
These later seasons. Yeah. Also saw you watched the first 3 episodes of Barry, which
Yes.
I will add has gotten a massive boost because it's been following Game of Thrones on HBO. So their third episode of season 2 saw a like 2 million person boost to their ratings, which has been insane. But
also, a lot of people were tweeting, if you're hating Game of Thrones this season, come watch Barry.
Yeah, well, the reason I got onto it was because I was reading threads about, I don't know, people just discussing the ending of Game of Thrones, and they were saying at least it wasn't as bad as Dexter, however that ends. But then someone said, if you didn't like that, watch Barry. It's like Dexter if it was good, which I don't really agree with that, but it is a really good show. I think it helps that it's 30-minute episodes.
Yep.
They're easily digestible, and just all the characters in it so far are they're hilarious.
yeah. So for people who don't know, it's Barry is played by Bill Hader.
Bill Hader, yeah.
Who is a hitman who takes a job in LA and ends up in an acting class.
Yeah,
And then
it sounds absurd, but
Yeah.
it also kind of works.
Also Henry Winkler's in it, so
He is too, yeah. And Jim Root, which is, I don't know why, but Jim Root is one of my favourite character actors. I just love everything he shows up in.
cool.
Yeah, I definitely suggest giving it a shot.
All right. So I watched the movie Begin Again, which is a 2013 American musical comedy drama written and directed by John Carney, who wrote and directed Once and also Sing Street, starring Mark Ruffalo and Keira Knightley, where it's just like he's a record executive or struggling record executive. She's a up-and-coming singer-songwriter who just broke up with her boyfriend who's like a breakout rock star sort of dude. Yeah, I enjoyed it. Obviously, I really enjoyed Sing Street. I thought that was really good. Like that, the songs in this are really good. But they do this really annoying thing right at the start. So they have her singing for the first time, like in a bar where he discovers her. And then they do a flashback to like a day or so before of him, which goes for like 20 minutes. And then they do a flashback of hers after that, which also takes like 20 minutes. So you're halfway through the movie and you're back at the start. And then it goes from there, which I find the pacing was off. I don't know. It just kind of threw me. But overall,
You begin again.
You begin again. You keep beginning again. It's crazy. Yeah, it was enjoyable. Adam Levine from Maroon 5's in this movie as well. He's adequate. He does his role. He fills his role perfectly.
He's Adam Levine.
He pretty much plays Adam Levine. But yeah, songs in this are good. I think I included one in one of the Bevan Beats a couple of weeks ago.
You did.
I did. So check that out. Yeah. I also rewatched Sing Street, and I discovered I really don't enjoy the kid romance stuff. So I just ended up sort of skipping through that.
Why?
I don't know. Yeah, I'm just like, I'm not in the mood for this.
No, you're weird. You're at it.
Awkward courtship.
You're not a romantic like us.
I know.
I watched that movie like 4 or 5 times, and I really enjoy their romance stuff or whatever.
I know.
What's weird about they're not like 8. They're like 16, 17, 18, or heading towards
15.
adults at least.
Yeah.
Well, 15. It's not like they fuck in the movie.
Yeah, I know.
Then what's the problem?
I don't know. It just, maybe I just wasn't in the mood to watch the awkward courtship. But yeah. Jack Renner in that movie is really good as well. As the older brother.
Yeah, the older brother's really great. He's just like this.
Crazy that he was in that Transformers movie before this.
Let me put on my records and teach you how to be a rock star, young brother.
Yeah. All right. Dylan, I saw that you watched the live-action adaptation of Beauty and the Beast with Emma Watson.
Yeah, it was okay. It's the most okay paint by numbers live-action Disney thing I've watched so far. I haven't watched them all. I haven't watched Cinderella or Maleficent, if you want to count that as. I
Did you
don't know
watch
if that
Dumbo?
counts or not, but. Oh no, I haven't watched Dumbo yet either. Sorry, I forgot that's out.
And we haven't watched Aladdin
Well,
yet because it's being recorded before Aladdin
it's
comes out.
only just out today or what tomorrow or whatever it is.
Yesterday.
But yeah, from the ones that all those out, Beauty and the Beast just it doesn't take any risks. It doesn't do anything particularly new. It doesn't have. I don't think it has the spark of magic that even the animated version does. It's just, and it's you can't like pinpoint one particular thing. It's just so paint by numbers, turn the animated thing into a live action remake that I think they were just so concerned about turning the animated thing into a live action movie that they've like didn't try and make an actual new movie, I guess, somewhat, which is a weird way to put it. But like Emma Watson, fine. The Beast, I can't remember the actor's fucking mental blank on that the actor's name. He's from those horror movies I like to. Yeah, Dan Stevens, that's it. He's as the Beast,
close.
fine. I think the Beast overall, I would have enjoyed just a practical effects version, which apparently they were going to do first, but then they VFX'd it later. And it's not that it looks terrible. It just at times just looks off. I guess I don't know. I find it weird. I would have preferred a more traditional version to just help with the intimacy of those two characters, I guess, a little bit. And then also there's other weird things like Ewan McGregor plays the fucking candlestick or whatever, and his accent I found odd. He's doing this French accent, but then the French thing is really weird too because it's like set in France. Everyone's speaking English. But no one's saying really any seeming French, and then you have like one character with a French accent, which makes it seem really weird that other characters don't have French accents. And then like at one stage, the bad guy, who's played by Luke Evans, he played like who's quite odd in the movie, but fits the animated version of the character as well, I suppose. But at one point, like his sidekick, who's played by what's his fuck from Frozen, is. Like says like a little bit of a je ne sais quoi, or whatever that saying is, and then he said Luke Evans' character's like, I don't know what that means, and I don't know if that's part of the joke. I don't know if that's the joke that he should know what it means because it's French for I don't know or whatever the saying means. But like it's so weird that it's set in France and said that it's a really nitpicky thing, I suppose. But it was just quite odd. The set design is wonderful. The costumes are amazing. The music is fine. I don't like it. It's comparable to the original somewhat, I guess, but doesn't do anything particularly new. That's what I'm saying. Overall, I gave it a 6 out of 10 on Trakt. It was okay. I think it's visually more interesting than it is as a movie. And maybe if you're more attached to the animated version, maybe you'll get more of a kick out of it. But I don't particularly love the animated version as is. It's not one of my favorite Disney movies by far. So it was okay.
So there were a bunch of season finales this past 2 weeks. I'm just going to run through all these ones because I know you don't really care that much. So
us or the audience?
Both maybe. Single Parents finished its first season. In my opinion, the best network comedy debut this year. I love the show. I think everybody in it has incredibly chemistry. Taron Killam and Leighton Meester and Brad Garrett and the other ones, yeah, and the little kids, they're all great, and I'm definitely looking forward to season 2. There was a great cameo at the end of this season that kind of sets it up interestingly for next season, so I'm definitely looking forward to that. Arrow finished season 7. All these superhero shows, to be fair, are like comfort food at this point. They're not great. They're not great.
The Arrow finale to the Game of Thrones finale. That was the end of Arrow altogether, wasn't it?
No, they got one more season,
No,
I think.
one more season.
I thought that was the end.
I did get emotional in that because obviously they read out one of the characters, if you've been following online, that's
Only
not coming back.
Ricard's left.
Yeah, so I did get a little emotional because there was a farewell. And, solid acting there. Arrow, the season was fine. I feel like at times they were sort of repeating themselves, which I guess at 8 seasons... 7 seasons tends to happen with these things. The alternate storyline also was fine. It didn't go the way I hoped it was going to go, but it's fine. Then we had The Flash had its season finale of season 5. Again, perfectly fine.
I looked up what's been happening in Flash lately because I stopped watching, and I was like, I don't know if this counts as a spoiler, but I'm going to say they fucking bringing back old villains already 5 seasons in. Come on now.
Yep.
What are you doing?
Well, both this and the Flash have been at the season finale sort of head up next year, where they're going to be, well, the end of this year, where they're going to have the Crisis, which is going to be their big event.
Crisis on Infinite Earths.
5-part, yeah. So, yeah, Flash was fine. Again, they had a character die or end up dead, so that was also a little bit emotional. And then DC's Legends Tomorrow was also pretty solid. It's just a fun, wacky show. With this season finale, involves a bunch of people singing to bring someone back to life. So, let me tell you, that's that. And they also sort of, that more than the other shows, they sort of show you where they're going next season. Because, yeah, there's some stuff involving hell and stuff that's going to happen.
Is Constantine still in this?
Yes, he is. And I fully expect him to be back next season because of what they teased at the end.
Okay.
So then we've got to move into our mandatory Netflix segment of the show. And I finished watching season 3 of Riverdale. I watched 13 episodes in one day while I was preparing stuff. Yeah, I just had it on. Just powered through it.
CW is the Ashley Hobley network.
Yep. This show also tends to repeat itself a fair bit. This freaking, I think, like last season with the Black Hood, everybody seemed to be the Gargoyle King this year. Constantly new person coming up. The season finale, I did feel like it all tied together well, and it sort of explained it and sort of tied in the last 3 seasons all together, sort of in a neat bow. So that all that's sort of been tied off. They explain what's up with the farm for people who are wondering, and it's messed up, really messed up. And I assume that's going to continue next year because they didn't quite cleanly finish that storyline out. And they also they had a flash forward in the finale, so we sort of have an idea of what's going to come next year. Crazy. And
in case if you can't, you tell listeners, I did stop watching.
Yeah, Dylan stopped watching. And yeah, it's going to be interesting next year because, to be fair, nobody's got any parents left. Moving on. Nick, I saw that you watched I Think You Should Leave with Tim Robinson.
Yes.
It's like a sketch comedy show, right?
It is, yeah. That's exactly it. I have no idea why I started watching it, but I watched it all straight after the other.
Because it was new, that's why.
I don't think it was new. I think it come up after
No, it's only been out like a couple of weeks.
Has it?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. It come up.
Trendsetter.
No, I think it was a notification from Netflix saying,
you
might enjoy this or something like that. And yeah.
Because it's new.
You're like, I will enjoy this. Netflix,
thank you, Netflix.
It's just wacky. That's the best way I can explain it. There's some fantastic skits in it. The best one, I think, is with Will Forte, but I can't explain it without spoiling it. But yeah, if you like sketch comedy, I reckon just give it a shot. I mean, they're 20-minute episodes, if that, or 12 or 18-minute episodes, and there's only 6 of them. But yeah, I think also why, because I clicked on it and it had Andy Samberg in it, I think that's also why I watched it. Because I hadn't heard of this Tim Robinson, is that his name?
Yeah, Tim Robinson. He used to be on Saturday Night Live.
Yeah,
like for 1 or 2 seasons. He wasn't there for very long. And then I think he was writing for Seth Meyers, I believe.
Yeah, he did this show called The Detroiters or something like that.
I don't know.
But yeah. And Andy Samberg's only in one skit, so don't go in there expecting Andy Samberg all the time.
I just looked it up. It was co-directed by Akiva Schaffer
from Lonely Island.
From the Lonely Island, yeah.
Ah, okay, yeah. It's sketch comedy. Check it out.
Yeah.
It's
cool,
surreal, absurd, funny.
So I watched the Netflix movie Good Sam, which starring Tia Carr, who was Vicky or Denise in Good Place. Pretty much, it's fine. It feels like you hear about those Lifetime movies. That's kind of what this is. It pretty much follows a news reporter who looks into a story about someone leaving large amounts of cash anonymously to different people and sort of trying to figure out who the Good Samaritan is. That's why it's called Good Sam. And then there's all twists and it's like a feel good mystery, but it's okay. Yeah, it's not great. Yeah,
You went from it's okay to it's not great.
I mean both are accurate. Okay is the same as not great. I also watched the documentary "Knock Down the House," which follows a bunch of women running to get onto the ballot for Congress, I believe, to be the Democratic nominee, or Republican nominee. I think some of them are.
Spoilers, it doesn't go well.
That's true. It of course it promisingly features Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, who, if you've been on Twitter or follow any American politics, is their flavor at the month at the moment.
I follow her on Twitter, I believe.
Yeah. Spoiler, she wins. But yeah, so she's sort of the main throw-through. It sort of revolves around this movement that's like, we need to put different voices out there and like trying to up grassroots political movement. And I think I said after the election the other day, if you're upset about it, you should watch this documentary. It won't make you feel better, but you might feel a little bit of hope that there is potential for the future.
There's no hope.
She's fucking fantastic. I wish we had someone like that.
Yeah, definitely. She's very charismatic.
I was watching this video on Twitter the other day where like she was grilling someone about this AIDS medicine or something in America that costs like $8,000 a pill or something over there, but it's like $8 in Australia or something.
Yeah.
And she's like, why is it so much expensive? And she's like grilling a head of a
pharmaceutical
company over there or whatever. And the dude's just like, well, reasons. She's like, yeah, well, you're fucking full of shit. So like, yeah, she's great. So I might watch this.
Yeah. So I also watched the new comedy called Tuca and Bertie from one of the writers of BoJack Horseman. It follows a toucan bird played by Tiffany Haddish and another sort of bird played by Ali Wong. Sort of like BoJack Horseman, it takes a couple of episodes to get into. Like, it's like fun comedy, wacky adventures. Oh, we're two roommates who used to live together, and now we don't live together, but we still go on wacky adventures together. And then it sort of gets like more deep into emotional stuff. Bertie's got like anxiety and that sort of thing, and that she's struggling with being with a new boyfriend played by Steve Yeun. Yeah, I really enjoyed it. By the end of the season, I was looking forward to what they do next, because it's sort of go through this emotional journey. Both the characters grow a lot, whereas at the start, Tiffany Haddish is pretty much playing a Tiffany Haddish character, a obnoxious go-getter, and then she sort of shows more of a vulnerable side through the season. But yeah, definitely worth investment. There's only like 10 episodes, they're like half an hour each, so it's not too bad. And then I also watched the second season of She-Ra. It's not as good as the first season. There's only 7 episodes. I just binge watch it and I can't remember any of it, honestly, which isn't very good. The last episode is really good because there's fun family dynamics, but that's about all I can remember of that.
Maybe the kids watching it.
The kids
pay more
option,
attention
yeah,
to
maybe they're not doing something else while they're watching, but I don't know. So that's everything that's been our watch history. So let's move into the news, and the biggest news is, sometime last week, Variety dropped a story that Robert Pattinson is going to be playing Matt Reeves' The Batman. And that pretty much broke the internet. While sources say it's not a done deal, and that has been further confirmed through the week, Pattinson is the top choice and expected to close shortly. Warner Brothers has no comments at the moment. But Dylan, we talked about this back in February. Who was going to be the next Batman? Pattinson obviously was a forerunner, to be fair, at that time. Have your opinions on Robert Pattinson as Batman changed? Or
I'll say first, I find this whole news story quite funny, because usually when a bunch of outlets like Variety and Hollywood Reporter and all these places come out, they're like, confirmed. Like, it's never usually wrong. But I love how this came out and then like 3 hours later, they're like, 98% there.
He's the front runner. Nicholas Hoult is still in the race.
Yeah, Nicholas Hoult. I was like, this is very confusing, but nonetheless, Robert Pattinson. Yeah, I'm down for him playing Batman. Back when we talked about it, you cut out that thing put up on Twitter. I found it quite funny to listen back to, because was like, yeah, I wouldn't mind him as Batman, but I don't think he'll do it, because I don't think he'll want to be in another big franchise after Twilight, which apparently isn't true at all if he's at least in talks and obviously wants the job somewhat. So
work.
I find, well, he does. Well, I mean,
well.
all he does is indie movies, really. Like,
Yeah, they don't pay the bills.
and he's been fine tuning his acting chops for the last 10 years, I guess. And none of those are paying as well as Batman will, I guess, is the thing.
This is kind of a shrewd move because I don't know if you know, but the next movie he's going to shoot is a little film directed by Christopher Nolan. So you could.
Oh yeah, he's in that.
He's in that with
John
David Washington. So
yeah. Yeah, I could see him playing Batman. I remember when we still don't really know much details about this. It's like Matt Reeves. They've said for ages that it's obviously going to be a younger Batman. That was the first thing they said. There was lots of rumors about it being based on or around like year one Batman's comic book and these sorts of things that these hot keywords they throw around for Bat fans and stuff like that. I see a lot of people online getting confused about how this works. Like, he's not old enough. He's not blah blah. I'm like, if the point is that he's young. He's young.
Also pointed out and misquoted that he's currently 33. That's older than Christian Bale was for Batman Begins.
I was about to say he's older than Christian Bale.
Even though they reported he was the youngest Batman ever.
Yeah, that was quite stupid. But I have absolutely no problem. As I've said like a million times over at this point throughout my life, on and off podcasts, I don't need someone to be super bulky and huge to play Batman because you put them in the suit and it really doesn't fucking matter as far as I'm concerned. They will look like Batman in the suit. They'll look like Batman. What I need is someone to play a good Bruce Wayne, and I can see Robert Pattinson playing a good Bruce Wayne, especially if we're talking early years Bruce Wayne where he's potentially coming back to the city. He's quite a tortured soul still. You know, he's dealing with all these sorts of things and, you know, coming to becoming the Batman, I guess, and all these sorts of things. So, and yeah, most of the people spinning it haven't watched anything he's done since Twilight. I've watched a lot of the stuff he's done since then, and he's fucking great. The number one movie I'd suggest you watch if you have a problem with him is Good Times, because he's fucking fantastic in that.
A spoiler alert, I've decided that's going to be the movie we end up watching next episode.
Sure, I'll watch it.
Yeah.
It's a good movie.
So Good Times. It's on Netflix or Amazon Prime in America, apparently. Nick, do you have opinions on Robert Pattinson?
It was out of left field for me, but as they say, if people say it's good when it comes out, I'll probably go see it, but I won't be rushing out.
Really?
I really have no horse in this race.
Yeah, okay. Well, yeah, I'm on board. Obviously, Matt Reeves is the main person that I think is driving this and that we need to be focused on. Obviously, he's got a pretty good track record recently, ever since... pretty much everything.
Apes.
His Rotten Tomatoes score has been improving since Cloverfield. So everything he's done there since has been getting better.
Leave Cloverfield alone, motherfucker.
No, that's the lowest of the films, but everything else is up.
The thing that I think concerns me more than Robin Pattinson being cast is the villains that is going to be in it.
Well, the rumor is that it's going to be at least the Penguin and Catwoman.
That scares me. At least.
At least. Yeah, because there have been rumors that there's going to be up to 6 different villains appearing. They could just be cameos. I mean, I think the story that everyone keeps pointing to is Hush, where a bunch of different people were in the comic book storyline.
Can you do Hush in a single movie, though?
Well, you'll find out soon, because the new animated project from DC is coming out, Hush. Trailer out recently.
No, you Hush.
No, anyway.
Great horror movie, by the way. Everyone should watch. It's really good.
And apparently Josh Gad is the front runner to play the Penguin. He even tweeted out a tweet about Robin Pattinson being Batman, saying I could take him. So I don't know how I feel about that. I mean, I'm fine with Josh Gad playing like a serious role, but I feel like it'd be more interesting if they like sort of take it. What I've been thinking about recently is what I really want them to do is just adapt Telltale's Batman Season 1.
It's not going to happen.
Just adapt that. Do it that way.
It's not going to happen.
Probably not.
I'm not getting to... I keep seeing people writing articles like, all these rumors about who's going to be the villains, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, can everyone just calm down?
No.
Just
wait.
Just take a chill.
Oh, is that not confirmed?
That's not
headlines
confirmed.
I saw, it was confirmed that it was Penguin and Catwoman.
No, it's just all rumors. And even Patterson is technically still not a lock-in. So, like, everyone... Yeah. Like, we're 98% on him. Like, we're pretty sure.
Well, apparently they want to make super sure. They've been doing suit tests, screen tests, chemistry tests, all sorts of stuff. So they kind of want to be 100% certain.
if they want to come out the gate and put out a picture like here's Robert Pattinson, he's Batman, and he's also, and it maybe at the same time announce who's going to be the key cast member as the villains, then I'll look at it. Of course, like if you're like Josh Gad Penguin, I'm like, don't know. But like with most things, I'm open to most things, even if I'm going to kind of twist my nose at it at first. The Robert Pattinson thing, I don't have any problem with at all, though. Just the
Yeah,
Josh
no,
Gad
I don't
Penguin
have a problem
rumor.
with that.
Cool. So we sort of touched on it before, but it has been confirmed that the next trilogy of films from Star Wars will be the ones written and produced by David Benioff and D.B. Weiss. How do we feel about that? Obviously, coming off
Nervous.
Game of Thrones, a completely blank slate to do whatever they want, even though there have been rumors they're doing something in the Old Republic, which makes me a little bit keen. But Nick, you're not happy about this at all? Or nervous?
No.
You're just nervous.
No, I'm nervous, yeah. Because, yeah, from what I recall, what they did before Game of Thrones wasn't that particularly
They didn't do anything.
inspiring either. They didn't do anything at all.
No. I believe they hadn't written a single word of television or film before they did Game of Thrones.
No, they wrote X-Men Origins. They wrote...
I was about to say they wrote a
of
bunch
television.
of stuff
I'm
from
thinking.
memory.
I'm misquoting.
Oh.
So
Yeah, Troy. Yeah, I don't know. Nervous.
nervous.
And I think Disney might be nervous too after what they just saw unfolded.
What the
But if
highest,
it's- if
the
it's
highest
Old
watched
Republic-
television episode in HBO history? That's what they saw, and they're nervous about that.
Yeah, but if it's Old Republic too, that kind of softens me up a bit too, because Old Republic I just can't really care for.
Ooh, okay,
It's
Dylan?
just not a period of Star Wars that interests me at all.
okay. Dylan, do you have feelings about this as the resident Star Wars expert? Quotation marks.
I find the whole thing quite weird because I still don't know if what they're actually doing with their movies. Like, for example, with the Rian Johnson thing, which we still don't know when exactly or what exactly his movies are doing. But like when they were first talked about it, it was Rian Johnson is working with a bunch of people and working on scripts for a trilogy of movies, of which he will probably direct the first one, and then the directors for the following two would go to other people, kind of thing. Like he would set up his trilogy much like George Lucas kind of did, and then like hand off the reins to other people to do bits and bobs. I don't know who's directing these.
There isn't anybody
Danny
attached at the
Benioff.
moment, so they're only writing,
There's no
producing,
direct.
not necessarily
Yes,
directing.
that's why I find it really weird. Like as writers, they've proven able to work and tell interesting stories. And here's the thing: everyone's always gonna. I think for the next year at least, everyone's going to have a really bad opinion of them for what happened in the final season.
Unless you
I
liked
think
it.
if you take that out of the way, there's lots of really smart things that they did over the time of Game of Thrones that proved they could twist source material and make smart choices and stuff, like removing characters from the books or like turning a bunch of characters into one character, like and storylines that weren't in the books that they actually introduced in the TV show that actually improved on characters and so on and so forth. So as much as like feelings aside for Game of Thrones, obviously, which we talked about, I do think a lot of people are just going to be down on them for the next year because of the final season without being able to look at the bigger picture. I don't think they're particularly bad. I don't think they're bad writers. I think they have proven themselves. And I don't think just the final season ruins everything they've ever done in their careers. But I'm most interested to find out who's actually directing this. What are they the sole writers on this, or are they shepherding this trilogy much like they would shepherd a TV show, where they're going to get a writer's room of people together to work on these scripts? They're going to be overseeing the story primarily and like having final say and things and so on and so forth. But it's actually going to be a rather collaborative process, which a lot of people only think about for TV projects. But like Avatar, for example, James Cameron has got together an entire writer's room for those bunch of sequels that are coming out, and he was making that a hugely collaborative process with a bunch of writers and so on and so forth, even though he was the one directing them. So I just kind of need more details. When it comes to the Old Republic rumors, those rumors are kind of just pulled out of thin air. Like, there's nothing really to ever back up and say and confirm that's what it is. People will pull out like random Kathleen Kennedy quotes where people ask her about it, and she's like, it's an area that we've talked about exploring, and then people are like, she's confirmed that Old Republic movies are coming.
Yep.
I'm like, well, she didn't say fucking anything. Like,
She
people
did.
just grab these quotes and like YouTubers, of course, like get on there and make them big headlines, and all of a sudden a bunch of news articles and whatever and so forth. Old Republic as a time, I could see be interesting in the movies for them, solely because they could fit it more into a like nightly time period for the Jedi, I guess, which would suit more like what they like doing, which is the medieval type setting, I guess, but the medieval type setting for the era of Jedi and these sorts of things. And they could tell the story of the period of time where the Sith fought the Jedi originally, or even when they like Darth Bane. I don't know. Like, there's all these stories they could pull from and stuff, but I still just need more details, because I'm like, it's Denny Weiss's movies, but I'm like, what are they doing? Who's directing these things? Who the fuck's involved? Like, who's doing the fight cinematography? Like, there's so many questions that I'm like, Star Wars is much bigger than just these two dudes. That everyone else on it needs to be really shit for them to drag down a Star Wars project. For me, like, especially if it's going to be a Jedi based or Sith based like fight thing, I'm like, well, who the fuck are the fight choreographers? Who are you bringing on to do that shit? Because if you bring on like the people from fucking John Wick or something, I'm like, I don't care who the fuck's writing and directing it. This shit's going to be dope. The fucking Jedi fight scenes are going to be
Unless
amazing.
they're pointing the camera the wrong
I'll
way.
watch it
Yeah.
just. I'll watch it just for that shit.
Or they have any water bottles or coffee cups. Yeah.
Yeah, Star Wars is really weird at the moment, because I'm like, what the fuck are they doing? What the fuck is Ryan Johnson doing? There's so many questions.
Yeah. I'm keen. I obviously like Game of Thrones, so I'm keen to see what they do. Obviously, this 3-year hiatus is kind of weird, but what are you going to do? There's not much.
I want Arya to play a Jedi.
Do you
I want
Maisie Williams
to play
a Jedi? Or
yes.
I feel like she's definitely going to be considered for a role in that.
I would put money on it now that there will be a fair share of Game of Thrones actors that come over to here. Well, the main reason you get a lot of Game of Thrones actors and Star Wars as is because Game of Thrones and Star Wars have already, for the past X amount of years, since 2015, 14, whatever, been sharing the same casting person that does both. So that's how come you've had so much crossover as is. They're done by the same casting person. So I would be highly surprised if you don't get their movies. And it's like, here's Maisie Williams. Here's the guy who plays fucking Davos. Here's whoever else. Like, it's going to get everyone from Game of Thrones is eventually going to be in a Star Wars movie. Half the cast is already in a fucking Star Wars movie. Jon Snow's going to fucking star in this trilogy.
So
Put my money on it now.
I can only think of two. Max von Sydow and Gwendolyn Christie.
Yeah.
Oh, Amelia Clark.
Emilia Clarke? Like,
Yeah, I was just thinking.
Well, you forgot about
too,
Solo.
yeah.
Everybody forgot about Solo.
I think there's a couple of bit roles. Like, for instance, at the start of Last Jedi or Force Awakens, like, remember the kid from Game of Thrones who died eventually, like season 4 or something like that, who dragged Bran around with his sister or whatever?
Yeah.
That kid, plays one of the random, First Order people. Like, there's a couple roles like that, just like background actors that are from Game of Thrones and stuff like that. Yeah.
All right. So if you didn't know, last week was Upfronts, which is pretty much where all the networks sort of tell you, the advertisers, what they're going to be showing for the next year. And then they sort of reveal all the new shows and the lineups for next year. So this year, we have 35 confirmed new shows coming to televisions in this autumn, I guess, for us. So we're going to run through all of 35 of them. It's going to be great. And this year, I'm just going to ask a simple question. Is it going to get a second season? Do you think you can handle that, Nick?
I don't have enough context to give that.
You just go with your gut. All right, first up, starting with the NBC shows, we have Lincoln. Based on the best-selling Bone Collector book series, this drama stars Russell Hornbury as Lincoln Rhyme, a criminologist seriously injured in his hunt for a serial killer. Ariel Kebbel plays the young beat cop who helps him hunt the killer while also taking on other high-profile cases. Justified veteran VJ Boyd and Mark Bianculli co-wrote the pilot based on Jeffrey Deaver's Bone Collector novels that also spawned a 1999 movie with Denzel Washington and Angelina Jolie. Will he get a second season, Dylan?
No, because I love the Angelina Jolie and Denzel Washington movie, so that's a no.
Nick?
Yes, because people love crime procedurals.
Cool. I'm going to say yes. Next up, we have Perfect Harmony. Bradley Whitford stars in a single-camera comedy as a former Princeton music professor who unexpectedly stumbles into a choir practice at a small-town church and winds up staying and ultimately learns just as much from his new mismatched family as they do from him. Speechless.
No.
Also stars Anna Camp, Timberly Hill, and Will Greenberg.
It doesn't get a full first season.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't see it getting a second season. Next up, we have Indebted. Adam Pauly and Abby Elliott star as parents ready to reclaim now that their kids are growing up, until their parents, Fran Drescher and Steven Weber, show up at their door broke, and he feels obligated to take them in. Dan Levy from the Goldbergs created the show and executive produced with Doug Robinson.
No.
Nick?
No.
Yeah, no, I didn't see this.
Fran Drescher's a real risky cast.
Is she?
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure, aren't they doing a Nanny reboot? I feel like that's the thing that I heard.
Oh, speaking of Fran Drescher, I watched Wine Country. Don't fucking watch it. It's a horrible movie.
Okay. Yeah, I've heard that. Next up, we have The Keenan Show. Saturday Night Live Emmy Award winner Kenan Thompson stars as a father to two adopted girls, while balancing his job and a father-in-law played by Andy Garcia, who helps in the most inappropriate ways. Lorne Michaels executive producers, with writer Jackie Clark from Superstore, directed and produced by Chris Rock.
Yes.
Ooh. Nick?
What? It's produced by Lawrence Michaels.
Michaels,
this is going to get pushed on. Yeah, this is going to get pushed on SNL, and it's going to get lots of viewers. Yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it probably. We said no to so many that surely one has to come up. Next up, we have Bluff City Law. Jimmy Smits returns to the network where he first rode to fame on late 1980s hit LA Law for a new legal drama that finds him playing a top Memphis attorney who asks his estranged daughter, played by Caitlin McGee, to join his firm that specializes in controversial landmark civil rights cases after her mother passes away. The series comes from Dean Georgaris, who created The Brave.
Bailey Gorn is back, motherfuckers. Yes, this is getting the second season.
Nick?
Sure.
Yeah, I think so. These law shows, they do very well. Next up, we have Sunnyside. Cal Penn is the co-creator with Matt Murray from Parks and Rec and stars as the star of this comedy about a disgraced New York politician who was the city's youngest city councilman in history until he was brought down by a public intoxication incident. But he gets an opportunity to rebuild his life when he is hired by a group of immigrants who hope to become American citizens. Mike Scher from Good Places Parks and Rec is among the producers. I like Cal Penn. I think it could work. Second season.
Yes.
No.
Nick? Nope. All right.
Are you keeping track of these?
I'll go back.
Is this
we'll
a
find out
predictions
in 12
episode?
months. Yeah, we'll find out in 12 months. There we go. I'll write up an article and everything. It'll be great. Next up, we have Council of Dads. It revolves around a husband and father who enlists his friends to serve as backup dads for his children after he is diagnosed with cancer. Starring Sarah Wayne Callies, Clive Standen, Tom Everett Scott, and J. August Richards. Head the cast for creators John Rada and Tony Fellon, who previously collaborated on CBS's Doubt.
No.
Nah.
No. Doesn't, yeah. And then last of the NBC shows, we have Zoe's Extraordinary Playlist, a musical drama from executive producer Paul Feig and writer Austin Winsberg, who worked on Gossip Girl. Jane Levy stars as a whip-smart coder in San Francisco who, after an unusual event, starts to hear people's innermost thoughts and desires expressed through song. After first questioning her sanity, she comes to realize this unwanted curse might actually be a great gift. Also starring Skylar Astin, Peter Gallagher, Alex Newell, John Clarence Stewart, Carmen Cusack, and Mary Steenburgen. This sounds like the fun, enjoyable show that gets cancelled after one season.
Nah, I'll go with yes. I'll make it to 2 seasons.
Nick?
No.
No? All right. Now to the Fox shows. We have 911
They're all cancelled.
Lone
Disney
Star.
shows.
Well, yeah. No, actually, Fox TV, the channel is separate, I'm pretty sure.
No, it's only the Fox News part of it.
I'm actually not 100% sure, but anyway. We have 911 Lone Star, a spin-off of 911. The Austin, Texas set drama stars Rob Lowe as a New York firefighter who moves with his son. The comes from the same creative team as 911, which is Ryan Murphy, Brad Falchuk, and Tim Minear.
Yes.
Yeah, it's a police show.
Americans
Yeah.
love. Americans will eat that shit up.
Yep, definitely. Next up, we have Filthy Rich, a southern gothic dramedy which stars Kim Cattrall with writer, director, and executive producer Tate Taylor from The Help. Follows a wealthy southern family who are famed for founding a Christian television. When the family patriarch suddenly dies in a plane crash, the surviving family members are shocked to discover that his will includes 3 illegitimate children, adapted from a New Zealand series of the same name.
Sure.
No.
I'm going to say yes. This seems like something they'd eat up. Yep. Next up, we have Bless the Hearts, which will follow a group of people living in the South. What they lack in money, they make up for in family and friends. Kristen Wiig, Maya Rudolph, Gillian Bell, and Ike Barinholtz lead the voice cast for this animated series that counts Phil Lord and Chris Miller among its executive producers.
Yes.
Yeah.
I say no. You guys can't see it, but the art style doesn't look very good. So
Yeah, but not as the outsole of that Tuca show that you fucking watched either.
Next up, we have another animated project called Duncanville, produced by Amy Poehler and Simpsons duo Mike and Julie Scully. The animated comedy revolves around a 15-year-old boy and his mother. Poehler reunites with Parks and Rec co-star Rashida Jones as both a lead cast that also includes Wiz Khalifa and Ty Burrell. Again, I'm going to say no.
Yes.
Yes.
I think a lot of Fox, like Bob's animated shows, get at least 2.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's true. The interesting thing is, obviously I think there's another animated show they've got on
And
this
they'll
as
get
well
another one as
because Simpsons owned by Disney, which is a thing. So, and it's moving to another channel, I think, or the old episodes are. Anyway, next up we have Deputy. Castle writer Will Beale, who created the recent not-so-good TV adaptation of Training Day, returns with another law enforcement drama series. This one follows the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department, specifically a man played by Stephen Dorff, who runs the department's top job after the death of his former sheriff, thanks to an arcane rule forged back in the Wild West. David Ayer directs the pilot and is also producer on the series. I'm going to say no.
What? David Ayer?
Yep, David Ayer from Suicide
Like-
Squad. And other better things.
And Stephen Dorff
Yep.
from True Detective. I'm going to say yes.
Nick?
No.
No. All right. Next up, we have Next, which is spelled NEXT. A fact-based thriller about the emergence of a rogue AI that combines action with an examination of how tech transforms culture in a way that isn't always understandable. Manny Kodo from 24 penned the script and executive producers alongside John Requa and Glenn Ficarra, who directed Crazy Stupid Love. Mad Men's John Slattery stars with Fernanda Andrade, Michael Mosley, and Eve Harlau.
Did you say a fact-based thriller?
That's what they used in the description.
What does that mean?
I guess it means it's plausible.
AI exists, fact.
Yep.
It's a
I'm going to say
fact-based-
yes. Another season.
No, I'm going to go no.
Yeah, I'm no too.
All right. Next up, we have Prodigal Son, which is a darkly comedic crime procedural about a brilliant young NYPD criminal psychologist played by Tom Payne, whose father, played by Michael Sheen, was a notorious serial killer. Bellamy Young and Lou Diamond Phillips also star. The series comes from Chuck Ryder, Chris Fidek, and Blunt Talk scribe Sam Scalver.
Yes.
I say yes.
Yes, just because of the behind-the-scenes
Peoples.
involvement, I guess.
All right. Next up, we have Not Just Me. Friday Night Lights, Jason Katims and the Path's Annie Wiseman team for an adaptation of the Australian drama series Sisters. The series centers around a woman played by Brittany Snow, who believes herself to be an only child until her dad, Timothy Hutton, a fertility doctor, admits to secretly using his sperm to father over 100 children. Now she finds herself with two new sisters, played by Megalyn Ekachikawok and Emily and Emily Osment, and more to come. Leslie Headland from Sleeping with Other People directs the pilot.
Yes.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, I say yes. It's a weird monster of the week idea.
I'm a new sibling.
Yeah. Next up, we have The Great North, another animated comedy from the creator of Bob's Burgers, as well Lauren Bouchard and the writers Wendy Molyneux, Lizzie Molyneux, and Minty Lewis, Nick Offerman, Jenny Slate, Megan Mullally, Paul Rust, Annapurna Nachula, Will Forte, and Dol Sloan comprise a voice cast. The series follows the Alaskan adventures of the Tobin family as a single dad does his best to keep his weird bunch of kids close as the artistic heart of his only daughter leads her away from the family fishing boat and into the glamorous world of the local mall.
Yes.
Yes.
Sure, yeah. One of these has to work. Next up, we have Outmatched, the multi-camera comedy from Lon Zimmett from LA to Vegas. Revolves around a blue-collar couple played by Jason Biggs and Maggie Lawson in South Jersey trying to get by and raise 4 kids, 3 of whom are certified geniuses.
Can I just, when did multi-camera be a selling point?
When they brought single camera, I guess?
I don't know.
That is such
It's like a
weird
throwback.
thing to start off with.
No, it's like, it's like a throwback to things like
That
Big
means
Bang
they're
Theory and stuff.
acting,
Yeah.
and there's multiple
It's like
cameras,
live
and
and
it's
stuff,
like
yeah.
it's like it's live, everyone. Yeah, no.
Yeah, this has disaster written all over it.
Yeah.
So it
Yes.
sounds like they saw young Sheldon and they're like, let's do that, but with 3 geniuses.
Yeah.
Thank God Big Bang Theory's over, by the way.
Next up, this one's a good one. We have, from ABC now, The Baker and the Beauty. A remaker of an Israeli series, Miami-set romance, The Baker and the Beauty traces the unlikely relationship between a Cuban-American man, played by Victor Razik, working in his family bakery, and an internationally famous fashion mogul, played by Natalie Kelly, whom he meets on a wild night out. Comes from Dean Jorgagas from The Brave. No.
No.
Terrible. Why would you make that the title of the show?
You know the old saying, just because it works in Israel doesn't mean it works here in the US of A.
Yeah. Next up, we have Emergence. This character-driven genre thriller centers around a police chief played by Alison Tolman, who takes in a young child that she finds near the site of a mysterious accident who has no memory of what has happened. The investigation draws into a larger conspiracy than she could ever have imagined, and the child's identity is at the center of it. Clancy Brown, Donald Faison, Zabrin Gueva, and Owen Yeoman also star, from Michelle Fakis and Tara Butters, who previously created CW's The Reaper and the short-lived ABC drama Kevin Probably Saves the World.
Yes, because it seems like it's going to have like cliffhanger type shit, and people will be hooked. And I want Alison Tomlin to do well. I like her. So
No.
Yeah, you sold me on that. Yeah, I want Donald Faison on my TV. Next up, we have For Life. This 50 Cent produced drama is inspired by the true story of Isaac Wright Jr., a wrongfully convicted drug kingpin who was eventually exonerated and became a lawyer, ultimately arguing cases in the same court where he was given a life sentence. Created by Hank Steinberg, who did The Last Ship. The show begins with his protagonist, Nicholas Pinnock, still in prison. Indira Varma, Mary Stuart Madison, Glenn Flesher, and Dorian Missick also star.
no.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, I'll say no as well. Next up, we have United We Fall, which follows a married couple played by Will Sasso and Christina Vidal as they navigate parenthood and their highly judgmental families, including a mother-in-law who lives with them, played by Jane Curtin. Comes from Julia Sharp, who previously created Making History and served as a writer on nearly everything Seth MacFarlane's done to date. I'm going to say no.
Yes.
Ooh. Then we also have Mixed-ish, a spin-off from the ABC comedy Blackish. It's a prequel centering on a young version of Tracy Ellis Ross's character Rainbow Johnson in the 1980s, when she grew up in a suburban mixed-race family after her parents moved from a hippie commune to a neighborhood with better schools. Erika Himmel plays the young Beau, and Tika Sumpter plays her mother. I'm going to say yes.
Yes, because
No.
Blackish is loved over there, I believe.
Yeah, but I don't think spin-offs work that well.
I would say,
I think comedy's
hey,
for spin-offs.
look at Young Sheldon, which I thought would bomb, but
It is
still going.
Still going, yep. Then we have the currently titled Stumptown, which is based on the Greg Rucka comics. It follows...
Is this the one with from How I Met Your Mother?
Yes, Colby Smulders plays Dex Pareus, a strong, assertive, and sharp-witted army veteran with a complicated love life, a gambling debt, and a brother, played by Cole Sibis, to take care of in Portland. Her military intelligence skills make her a great PI, but her unapologetic style puts her in the firing line of hardcore criminals and not quite in alliance with the police. Jason
I watched the
Richmond.
trailer for this the other day.
Yeah? Second season?
Yeah. Yeah, it looked alright, and I wanted to check it out, so I'll say yes.
Yes.
I'll also say yes. Cool. Alright, then we have CBS's All Rise, a Los Angeles set legal procedural that examines all aspects of the criminal court system, from judges and jurors to DAs and bailiffs. All Rise stars Mark Hellenberger, Simone Missick, Jessica Camacho, and Wilson Bethel. The drama comes from Greg Spottiswoode, who previously created the Canadian shows Remedy and King. I'm going to say no.
Yes.
Yes?
Nick votes for anything that's a crime or...
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, one of them's got to come right. Or multiple of them have got to come right. Next up, we have Bob Hart's Abishola. Abishola? We'll find out when it debuts how it's pronounced. Billy Gardell, who was previously the Mike in Mike and Molly, stars as the titular Bob, a middle-aged sock businessman from Detroit who suffers a heart attack. When he recovers, he immediately falls in love with his nurse, a Nigerian immigrant named Abishola, and he'll do anything to win her over. Kristen Ibisel and Matt Jones also star. Chuck Law, comedian Gina Yashir, and frequent law collaborator Eddie Grutsky and Al Higgins are credited as series creators. Did I lose you at the Chuck Law?
You lost me pretty fast. I don't know where it was.
Yeah,
but
this
no.
sounds terrible. Well,
Yes.
Okay. Next up, we have Broke, which centers on an outrageously wealthy trust fund baby, played by Jamie Camille, who is suddenly cut off by his father. Short on money and living arrangement, he and his wife, played by Natasha Leggero, move into the house of his estranged sister, played by Paulie Perrette from NCIS, in the San Fernando Valley.
Yes.
I'm going to say no. Surely you're better than this, peoples. Then we have Carol's Second Act, which is the latest sitcom vehicle from Patricia Heaton. She stars as a mother who, after retiring from teaching and raising 2 children, opts for a late-in-life challenge, becoming a doctor. Created by Emily Halpern and Sarah Haskins, who had done Trophy Wife previously. Also stars Kyle MacLachlan and Lucas Nerf. I see this.
No.
I'd say yes.
No.
She's got a great track record.
Does she, though?
The middle went for ages. Everybody loves Raymond.
It's about to get
I
ruined,
did
mother.
too. 10 years.
About to get ruined.
Never watched it.
That's it.
Next up, we have Evil. Created by the Good Wife team of Michelle and Robert King, the drama follows a clinical psychiatrist and skeptic, played by Westworld's Katja Herbers, teaming up with a priest in training, played by Malk Coulter, and the carpenter, whose beliefs are apparently unknown to the CBS employee writing the show summary, to investigate seemingly paranormal phenomena, miracles, and demonic possessions. Michael Emerson and Asif Mandi also star.
No.
No.
That's a yes.
Constantine couldn't survive. This won't.
It's a yes. It's got a carpenter. Then we have FBI.
It's got a carpenter?
Yeah.
It'll turn out to be Jesus or something.
I was about to say, just fucking...
Next up, we have FBI Most Wanted, which got a backdoor pilot out of FBI, the TV show that we talked about last year. It will center on the FBI division charged with tracking down the criminals on the Bureau's most wanted list, in case you weren't clear from the show's title. Starring Kellen Lutz, Julian McMahon, Alana de la Garza, and Keisha Castle Hughes. I think this is a shoe-in. You'll definitely be.
Yeah, if people watch SWAT, they'll watch this.
Created by Dick Wolf as well, if that sways your vote.
I already said yes, so unless you're trying to sway me away.
I'm talking to the people listening. Next up, we have Tommy. Tommy stars Edie Falco as a New York cop who moves to the opposite and objectively better coast to become the LAPD's first female chief of police. The series comes from Paul Astanzio, who did Bull and Homicide: Life on the Street. It also stars Michael Chernus, David Ferrero, and Adelaide Clemens.
No.
Yeah. Got enough. We've already done enough cop shows so far. Then we have The Unicorn. This single camera comedy centers on a recently widowed father of 2 daughters played by Walton Goggins, who navigates both the dating world and the parenting world with the help of a tight-knit group of friends and family. Rob Corddry and Michaela Watkins round out the main cast. Comes from...
Give it up for that single camera comedy.
Yeah.
This time, everyone. Give it up.
They can't afford more than one.
I'll say yes.
I'll say yes as well. Walton Goggins deserves to have some laughter in his life.
Yeah.
So
But I don't think it's going to go longer than one season, though.
No. All right. And then to round it out, we've got 3 left. We have the CW shows that are coming out. We have Batwoman.
No.
Ruby Rose stars as Kate Kane, the superhero who roams the streets of Gotham as Batwoman and must overcome her demons before embracing the call to become the city's symbol of hope. The Vampire Diaries grad Caroline Dries serves as showrunner on the series that counts Jeff Johns amongst its executive producers.
Yes.
Guaranteed
I can't give
a
an
second
unbiased answer on this.
season. You said no, so... It's definitely.
There was no to everything CW.
You just hate lesbian superheroes.
No,
Yep,
I just
you've been
hate
grouped
Ruby
in with
Rose.
them. Next up, we have Katie Keene, the Riverdale spin-off from Greg Berlanti and showrunner Roberto Aguirre Sacasa. Focuses on 4 20-somethings pursuing fame in New York City, starring Pretty Little Liars grad Lucy Hale as a titular aspiring fashionista as she meets an adult Josie McCoy, played by Ashley Murray, who was previously on Riverdale. Julia Chan, Johnny Beauchamp, Camille Hyde, Lucien Laviscont, Zane Holtz, and Catherine Lanassa ran out the cast.
Are you telling me that Josie leaves Riverdale?
Yep.
The fuck?
This is also set 5 years after Riverdale.
The fuck? I mean, that's
No.
weird, but I'll say yes.
Yes, this is going to... that definitely looks like a show that should work on the CW. And then last show, we have Nancy Drew. Newcomer Kennedy McMahon stars as a young sleuth Nancy Drew in this adaptation of the classic book series that is set in the summer after Drew's high school graduation. The first season finds this new grad's college hopes put on hold when she's caught up in a family tragedy and a murder investigation. Riley Smith and Leah Lewis also star. Freddie Prinze Jr. co-starred as Drew's estranged father in the pilot, but has been replaced by Scott Wolf. It comes from Josh Schwartz and Stephanie Savage from OC, Gossip Girl, and Marvel's Runaways. So I think this
Yes,
will
and
get a
also
second
this
season.
is the one I want this one to be the best out of all of them because Veronica Mars is basically just this without the name
With Kristen
just
Bell,
replaced
yeah.
and I just want a good Nancy Drew show is something I would watch. So I'll say yes and hope for the best.
I'm going to say yes.
Sure.
Most of these CW shows get at least 2. Nick?
I said yeah.
Great. Well, that's everything. So now we can finally move in to what we end up watching. Dylan, what did we end up watching?
We watched The Devil's Rejects.
This is truly the most shocking, crime scene that this reporter has ever witnessed.
Written and directed by Rob Zombie, starring Sig Haig, Sherry Moon Zombie, and Bill Moseley. The murderous backwoods Firefly family take to the road to escape a vengeful police force which is not afraid of being as ruthless as their target. Which really is not a good explanation for it at all, I don't think. But obviously a direct sequel to the other film, Rob Zombie film, House of a Thousand Corpses.
I think they're barely connected.
They are barely connected.
They've got the same characters, kind of.
Yeah, but
The next movie's going to have the same characters, and I have no idea how they're going to do that either.
Yeah, that's true.
Well, I mean, we can tackle that later if you want, but I don't think this is. I don't think you need to watch 1,000 Corpses at all.
I had watched this before 1,000 Corpses.
Okay. Well, Dylan, this is amongst your top 5 movies of all time, if I'm correct.
I don't know if it's in top 5. I consider it. I don't have an exact list, but I consider it in my top 10.
You do have an exact list. We did a pleasure explosion about it.
Yep.
I don't know if it would be the same these days, though. It's been a couple of years.
Yeah, things have changed.
So I don't know if it would be bumped out to top 20 these days. I don't know. Either way, I do consider it one of my favourite movies.
Cool. So, Nick, what do you think?
When I originally watched this, way back when I was a teenager, I loved it, adored it, held it in high regard until I watched it again last week. It does not hold up for me at all. It just feels so amateurish. A lot of the acting is just cringeworthy, especially Sherry Moon Zombie. I think the only character I like is the brother. I think he plays his part well, but yeah, it definitely comes across for me as a movie that teenagers would get a kick out of, like just over the top violence, sexualized. Yeah, it just doesn't hold up. Not for me.
Interesting. Obviously, I'm not a horror guy. I didn't mind it. I thought it was pretty solid. I find different segments of it very encapturing or very riveting. I just couldn't, like, obviously that scene in the hotel. That was
it's the most horror part of the whole movie.
Yeah, probably. But yeah, I just couldn't take my eyes off it. It's crazy. But then there are other elements of it that were like the cuts. Like the time jumps,
particularly the editing
shots.
Felt very amateurish to me.
But it's done on purpose.
Yeah, I know, but it just doesn't work for me
because he was amateurish. That's why.
Yeah, it just.
I mean, it's.
All right, Dylan, have your 2 cents.
Yeah,
I don't really care if you don't like the movie because this is not a movie I try and like. You know, this is not. Everyone has a movie. I think everyone kind of has a movie, if they know or not, that they really love, but they know isn't for everyone. I consider the Devil's Rejects that movie for me because there's no way I could come to a crowd of people and be like, hey, this is a great movie, right? And expect everyone to turn around and be like, yeah, that is a great movie. You know, most people would be like, you're fucking insane. Like, how do you consider that a great movie? But the Devil's Rejects to me is just the ultimate experience in fucked up characters. Like these are my 3 horsemen of horror movies to me. I don't know how else to describe it. Like these 3 characters in the Devil's Rejects are just my favorite horror characters. I guess is the reason I like the movie the most. I mean, some people love Leatherface, some people love fucking Freddy, Jason, whoever. They are the characters they consider their favorite horror icons. To me, my favorite horror characters are the trio from the Devil's Rejects. So, and when it comes to like the editing and stuff, I think the movie was made for like 6 or 7 million or something like that. So it's not like a really small budget, but comparatively, it is a small budget still. Like, comes off in movies, and the editing and stuff is done 100% on purpose. It's purposely going for an old throwback 70s, late 60s horror movie style. It's got freeze frames. Like within the first 5 minutes, it does the whole freeze frame stuff to build up the tension stuff. That's a throwback. It does the swipes. That's a throwback. It does all that stuff is done to make it feel like a B movie. Like it's being made to feel like a B movie on purpose. The plot is ridiculous. And the other thing that works for me so much, and the reason I like the movie, I think, is because it's, to me, The Devil's Rejects isn't even set in a real world. it's like set in a fantasy world because none of it's really makes any sense at all about how these characters can go about. And especially as we continue, if you want to take it in place of its trilogy that's about to come out, because there is a sequel coming. Like you go from House of a Thousand Corpses to this, and then they're doing another one. Like when you look at the whole bigger picture, I'm like, it's just this weird horror fantasy universe that Rob Zombie's created, and they're fucked up characters. But then I think the reason that this movie works the best is because in the original House of a Thousand Corpses, it was your typical, you followed the good guys on their way in, or the good guys, the
victims.
The victims.
The victims, yeah. So you follow them in, and then they get trapped in a house. It was very like a Texas Chainsaw Massacre type story, I guess. Like they get trapped in this house and whatever else, and the family's all fucked up and whatever else. But also that included a character called Dr. Frankenstein, which was cut from The Devil's Rejects, even though they filmed a scene with Dr. Frankenstein, which is the most supernatural character from the original, but it was cut from the sequel because Rob Zombie deemed it too silly for the sequel, even though it worked in the original somewhat because that's the kind of style it was going for. But they filmed a scene with that character with Rosario Dawson, of all fucking people, who's a nurse that the Dr. Satan kills in the hospital, which is quite funny. But then this, you follow these three characters from the start. The opening of the movie I love. It's like this thriller with the cops showing up and all these sorts of things. And then as the movie progresses and William Forsythe's character, Sheriff Wydell, grows more and more angry and, on this mission from God to kill them and seek vengeance and whatever else, all these sorts of things, you get to the point by the end of the movie, it's like the three characters we're following, which are bad, are villains. Like they're not good people, full stop, at all. But then by the end of it, it's like, well, the sheriff isn't a good character at all either. So both sides that are facing off, it's not good versus evil. It's just one evil versus
bad
another
and
evil.
more bad.
Really. Yeah, it's like bad versus bad. So then you just get to see these bad people all face off. The only good people in it are all the victims that are killed off, I guess, but there's no hero in the story at all. Yeah, but Sid Haig, obviously, as I was showing just on camera before, but you can't see in the podcast, I have my fucking little pop vinyl here of Sid Haig as Captain Spaulding himself. Him in that role is amazing. I think Bill Moseley, like the particular moment where he just comes out, he's absolutely haunting and evil as Otis. Like that particular scene was like about to kill those two dudes as he takes them out and he's like, I'm the devil and I'm here to do the devil's work. Like so great, just like B-movie horror dialogue that I kind of eat up because it's so ridiculous. And Sherry Moon Zombie, her acting chops aren't up to par as everyone else, but I kind of enjoy her still as this kind of ridiculous, like, no, you want to take me out? Like she's playing the character that she's meant to be playing, even though she can't do some of the more serious scenes. Although I do think in the scene where she's getting tortured and all that sort of stuff, she sells the emotional hit there that's happening with her. It's just some other scenes I don't think she does too well. And then even like William Forsythe, who's playing the sheriff, like his has this horrible, if you want to call it horror, but I think it's amazing B-movie dialogue of just even the second he gets out of the car and is like, all right, everyone, we're here to do the Lord's work and the Lord's work to, Texas and we're Alabama ass kicking. And it's just all very stereotypical dialogue, but it's all done on purpose. And I think the movie is just the ultimate B-movie, horrible messed up characters, horrible messed up setting. It really just grabs that gnarly aesthetic of that part of America and everything stereotypical you could think about it and just oozes with it, which is obviously what Rob Zombie kind of epitomizes even with his music, that area and that sort of and stuff. So I've watched it countless times. And then every single time I get to that last scene as they're driving along the highway, all fucked up, fucking Freebird kicks in. I love that is one of my all-time favorite scenes in any movie, I think. Just that Freebird sequence of them pulling along the highway and just the slow build up and the camera pans around, they pass around the guns and they all drive off and get shot to shit. Spoilers, but
maybe.
Speaking to that, I think the soundtrack for this movie is fantastic overall.
It's
a good soundtrack.
Fucking tops. The soundtrack is tops, and it's so funny because it's like all this,
classic rock,
classic rock type stuff. But yeah, I was listening to it a lot recently, which is why I stuck Freebird on the last Bevan Beats, and then that's kind of what led to me being like, I should probably do this for what do you want to watch, because I'd been listening to the soundtrack because I'd been getting pumped for the potential trailer for the sequel to this coming, and then I was like, fuck, I need to watch Devil's Rejects again. And it's definitely not, that's what I'm saying, it has problems, but for me personally, it is just the ultimate B-movie horror movie.
I think for me, I wish I was left with my memories of it and not having rewatched it.
Yeah. Thanks a lot, Dylan.
Sorry to ruin
I was
it.
kind of
Everyone.
Sorry, you go.
No, I was just going to say I was thrown when I saw Brian Posehn as the roadie dude. Obviously,
What about Diamond Dallas Page?
yeah, that too. That was odd.
But during the opening credits, if we're into spoiler territory, where they show Moon Zombie fakes being hurt and the woman stops to help, that has stuck with my mind ever since I watched that movie. At the back of my mind, whenever I see someone breaking down on the side of the road or something like that.
Really?
Yeah,
That's why you
that is
never
just-
help anybody.
It has just always stuck with me in the back of my mind.
Don't
I
get
know why.
hitchhikers.
Yeah, that's exactly why. Yeah.
I'd like their nod to Ned Kelly with their armor at the start of the film.
Oh, the armor at the start,
Yeah, that
and
was pretty
stuff
cool.
like that. Yeah,
I don't know how
100%
effective
the
that would
Ned
be
Kelly thing.
against modernish guns, but what do you know?
Well, I don't think the movie's very realistic
No.
in a lot of terms, so I don't think it matters.
And then I definitely saw the William Forsythe, his ending with Tiny showing up, even though we only saw him like 1 minute at the start of the film.
Why did Tiny just walk into the fire? I don't
Yes, that's a
understand that.
question.
I've watched this movie several times. I have no fucking clue.
They even said, "Oh, we'll be back for you," and he's like, "Yeah, whoop-de-doop, straight into the fire."
I've always just taken it as him just being like, "Yeah, sure," but he knows it's not. Like he's done, and he just walks.
But
in,
why?
kills himself.
But he's not even a focus
I don't
of
know.
any of the investigations during the shit. Like
Nobody knows who he is.
to any other character in the movie, he doesn't exist.
I guess the only other way is like he walks back in to maybe go get something, and then the house blows up, and he wasn't expecting it to. I don't know. I don't actually think it's important. I've never really cared.
Also, it must have been really awkward shooting that first scene where the lady's naked and then being pulled through the bush. That would have been very uncomfortable.
Yeah.
I've seen more uncomfortable naked ladies being dragged through. I mean, go watch Evil Dead.
True.
Yeah. Well. Yeah.
Yeah. So the reason it spurred me picking it is because we do have the sequel coming out soon this year, which is called Free From Hell. Rob Zombie's next movie and so you got Sid Haig, Bill Moseley, and Sherry Moon returning in that. And to answer like the question of how do they come back, because obviously you're supposed to assume they die at the end of the movie.
Yeah.
I honestly just think
There's no way they survive that. They definitely.
That's the
die.
thing. That is the thing. I'm going to throw it out there that I reckon the explanation of how the sequel works is as simple as they survive that. They survive.
Or they literally come back from hell.
Yeah.
No, but like with
Jason.
Yeah, like this.
stuff
To quote Dylan, this fantasy horror universe.
well, they could come back for. I don't know. Like apparently the trailer's going to be out soon. Like Rob Zombie's been saying the trailer's going to drop soon. I'm getting excited to watch a trailer because the trailer's going to hopefully answer this question of well, how the fuck does this movie even work? Although to be honest, much like how House of a Thousand Corpses just kind of takes some of the characters and goes, yeah, you don't really need to think about how House of a Thousand Corpses ended. We're just going to do this other movie. That's why I don't really mind if Three From Hell's just like, just pretend the end of Devil's Rejects didn't happen and they managed to just drive away somewhere and then they got caught later. I have no problem if they just kind of retcon endings because that's what they did between A House of a Thousand Corpses and Devil's Rejects anyway. They just changed the ending. It was like, yeah, forget
That
about
means
it.
your favourite scene won't be canon.
Yeah, I don't really care about the canon for the Devil's Rejects universe. I can enjoy every movie as its own thing. From the pictures that have been released from it though, they've got them in prison. Like that's where at least some of the movie is going to take place. They have a heap of pictures of the characters in this prison place. So you got Bill Moseley has this like really big beard in one shot and all these other things. And there's a character. I was trying to find that fucking actor here. I can't fucking find him somewhere. But there's someone like down as playing the warden of whatever prison and these sorts of things. So at least some of the sequel is going to be taking place in a prison, I would presume. That's why I'm presuming the start of the movie, if not all of the movie, is going to be in the prison, and it's because they somehow survived the shooting. I don't really care how, fantasy magic. I don't care. Fucking horror movies, the characters literally come back over and over and over, and that's how all of everyone's favorite horror icons exist. Like Freddy dies a million times, Jason dies a million times. I don't really give a shit if Baby Firefly, Captain Spaulding, and Otis all die a million times and come back for another movie. I don't care. It's a horror movie. That's literally how horror movies work at this point. But pretty excited, and it's very easy to say that Free From Hell is one of my most excited movies for the rest of the year at this point. Yeah, but it's.
I'm still excited to see it.
There was a point in my life where I loved horror movies. Like I just hit my horror movie loving stage, and I was just like binging horror movies every night. Like there was that period of my life where I went through. I watched every Friday, every Nightmare, every Halloween. You know what I mean? Like I started just watching all these horror movies, and when I got to Devil's Rejects, that was the movie I just fell in love with for whatever reason. And I still watch horror movies, obviously, but I'm not as deep with watching them as consistently as I was when I was in high school. So for me to be excited about a new horror movie, other than like say It Chapter 2 or something, which I kind of consider it a little bit different because Free From Hell's more like this is like a B movie. Like this is like a grungy, like sort of indie horror movie.
Grindhouse.
Whereas it's like a grindhouse something. Whereas all these other ones that come out that I enjoy, be it your fucking Child's Play remake, all the Blumhouse productions, all that sort of stuff. I'm like, they're all like more Hollywoody type horror movies to me. You know what I'm saying? Like this is sort of different horror movie because of just the money and the production company and those involved in these sorts of things. And like all the actors that do this, like Sid Haig, Bill Moseley, Amelia Rivera, Dane Trejo, Clint Howard's in the sequel, all these actors, they're all popular horror character actors. That's what they're known to do. So anyway, cool. Devil's Reject, fantastic.
One more question. Do they stick the face to her face, the lady that runs into the front of the semi-trailers?
Yes.
They put the mask
you notice,
over her.
yeah, they put the
straps, so she could have taken it off.
She could have, but I don't think she was in the most stable mental state.
No, that's
she's just in such a state of shock that she runs out and gets whacked by that whole thing. Also, Dane Trejo in this movie is quite fun. So I'm glad he's back for the sequel as well. So. If he's playing the same character, I think according to IMDb,
it is. Yeah.
So I don't know how that works out, but whatever.
All right, that brings us to the end of this episode of What Do You Want to Watch? Nick, where can people find you on Trakt if they want to keep up with all your watching habits?
Lord and Prior.
Dylan, where can people find you on Trakt and also on Twitter?
I'm looking at this picture of Bill Moseley in Free From Hell, and he looks very much like Charles Manson, so that's quite kind of fucked up. You can follow me on Twitter and Trakt and all the things at Vivaladil, VIVALADIL.
You can follow me on those two places at Ashley Hobley, ASHLEY, You can follow the Explosion Network, which this is a part of, at Explosion Pod on Twitter, and check out our YouTube, youtube.com/Explosion Network for the review discussions and stuff we talked about before, and South of King's Landing. Or you can just go over to explosionnetwork.com where you can find all our reviews, news stories, and other stuff. If you've got any comments or concerns, send us an email at mail@explosionnetwork.com. Of course, if you can help us out, leave us a review either on Apple Podcasts or on Podchaser, or just tell a friend. Let them know that 3 From Hell is coming out, because I'm sure they don't know. And then tell them that we'll probably be talking about it on What Do You Want to Watch? Because it's definitely something Dylan wants to watch.
It is.
All right. And until next time, keep watching stuff, I guess.
Every Saturday, listen to a brand new episode of Arcade Couch, the Explosion Network's variety video game podcast. Sit back, relax on the best couch to chill with your friends and hear about the latest industry news, as well as our opinions on the latest releases and what we've been playing. Just search your podcasting app for Arcade Couch and subscribe for free now. Like now. Do it.
Did you know I once shook hands with Johnny Cash?
Really?
Yeah.
Cool.